should you be getting unlicensed memorabilia autographed for your collection? Now, I've got a pretty firm stance on where I am on this topic, but I'm going to talk to you today about the pros and the cons of doing so, and then you can decide what's best for you and your collection. All right, first off, let's talk about what is unlicensed memorabilia. So unlicensed memorabilia is essentially photos or jerseys or anything that has a licensed logo on it that hasn't been approved by the teams in the leagues. So take, for example, a knockoff jersey. Okay, it's got fake logos on there. It's made in some factory in the Philippines or wherever it is. And this jersey has not been made in a licensed NFL or MLB facility. Okay, that's example number one. The second example is unlicensed photos. So a photographer takes a picture, they put it on the internet somewhere, you download that picture, print it off for yourself, and you get it signed. Okay, that would be considered an unlicensed photo, meaning it hasn't been licensed by the leagues or the player in the image there, and therefore can't be printed and used for any use. Okay, has not been licensed at all. Okay, so those are the two main examples that we constantly see are the jerseys and mainly the photos. Okay, so again, my stance on this is always to use licensed memorabilia, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit here. But again, you guys are your own human beings. You are free to do with what you want. Some signings, like the Fanatics ones, are going to require everything to be licensed. Paul Skeens is going to be signing here in a couple days. If your item is not licensed, it's not getting MLB authenticated. So there are some drawbacks to that as well. So we'll talk about those here with the negatives. But let's start off with some positives for you. Positives. Why would you want to use unlicensed memorabilia? Well, the main reason why some of you people do it is it's cheap. If you want to get a jersey and you want it of a particular player, it's going to cost you what? What are knockoff jerseys nowadays? I don't know. $30, $35, somewhere around there. Versus paying, anywhere from $150 on up. Okay? So you're saving $120 there. You don't really care about the quality. You just want to save some bucks. Okay? So that's the pro, is it is cheaper. Another pro of doing it is, hey, sometimes it's availability. For example, they don't make a jersey for a particular guy, or there isn't a photo out there that's licensed. So that's the big issue that a lot of you are running into is you want a particular image of a player signed. However, it's not available. It hasn't been licensed before, and there's an issue obtaining that item. Now, it can be licensed. It's not really all that difficult to get it licensed. For example, on my end, if I find an image that's on Getty Images, I can literally take that Getty image number, send it over to Fanatics, and I can ask my Fanatics rep, hey, is this item available? And they can search their database. A lot of the stuff like Sports Illustrated ones are not. But if they have a relationship with the company or the photographer or whatever it is, in most of the cases, they can get that image. Now, sometimes there are some issues with players in the background as far as getting those licensed. They'd have to be blurred out or they'd have to be removed or something like that. So that's kind of where you get into some issues with the licensing. But if it's just a standard image of an Aaron Judge, most likely you can get that photo licensed. And it's really quick and easy and cheap if everything is all lined up and the player has signed all their agreements. That's the issue that you run in with retired players is they don't have an updated agreement on hand, so they can't print images of that player. So that's the kind of the big drawback I get, or big pro, I guess, if you wanted to print off your own unlicensed image, is you have access now to a ton of images. If it's on the internet and it's a good size and you can get a good print quality, then you can go ahead and print it off. Okay. But again, another big thing is, hey, listen, you get the availability of the images or the availability of the jerseys. You can get the size you want. You can do all that fun stuff. So you've got basically the world is at your fingertips. Okay. The cons. What are the negatives of doing this. I'm going to tell you a quick little story about the negatives on this. There was a Facebook group out there. Oh gosh, I want to say this was over a decade ago, and somebody out there was stupid enough to be selling images that were unlicensed. They were just selling just the raw files of these things. And this person ended up getting in trouble, and I think they spent a few years in jail. Another guy that was part of the group ended up getting fined a few $1,000s as well. So there definitely are some legality reasons on why you would not want to be doing this. Now, these people were taking it to the extreme where they were selling these images and stuff like that. So that's probably a little bit different than you printing off a photo, going down to Dick's Sporting Goods and getting it signed at a free signing and then putting it in your collection, okay? That's probably going to be okay for you. You're not, the feds are going to be coming down, beating down your door for that one, okay? So you'll probably survive to see another day. But really, for me, the big negativity, and I've seen this probably 3 times here in the last month, is the quality of these items are not conducive for autograph signings. I'll give you a couple examples. We had a couple customers recently send in some knockoff jerseys that were going to be signed, and the autographs came out like junk. And the reason being is whoever made this jersey or whatever it was, the number was, of course it's sewn on, which everybody wants, right? The number is, I don't want to use the word glossy, but these knockoff jerseys bleed all the time. They're just made with inferior quality materials. That's why they're so cheap too. Yes, they're made with cheap labor, cheap materials, cheap. And so if we send this back to the customer now, it's like, well, hey, you didn't, it's always our fault, right? You didn't use the right pen. Well, dude, you just asked for a Sharpie. Like, what could we have done differently, man? Like, we just used a fresh Sharpie on your item and it bled everywhere because it's a crap item. Okay, the materials are crap. We had another issue too with a photo that a customer had sent in, and they wanted Sharpie on it. However, the material that they printed this photo on, it was super tacky, and the pen basically just could not glide on it. And so basically, a big blob of Sharpie ink just got caught right in like the center where the athlete was starting the autograph. So luckily we were able to kind of clean it up very quickly, and then a paint pen worked perfectly on it. And so that's kind of the issue that we run into is if you're sending us unlicensed items, like we don't know what the quality of this stuff is. We don't know how you printed this thing. We don't know what materials you used. Is it going to be good for a Sharpie? Is it going to be good for a paint pen? I don't know. And that's why we really like licensed stuff. Like whatever we get from Fanatics, I know I can use a Sharpie, a paint pen on those, and we're going to be just fine. I know it's going to give my customers the best possible quality, which is what we are all after. Another big negative, especially when you're coming to photos, is what is the quality of the image? Like if you should see some of the stuff people send us. I mean, we almost have to have conversations with them. Like, you're sure you want to get this signed, right? Like, you're spending $400 on this item with 3 inscriptions, and the picture is completely pixelated. You're sure you want this signed? Yeah. Get it signed. Okay, all right, fine. We'll get it signed for you. But we saw this a lot. I think was Alex Morgan. I think like these half nude images people would send us. And they're all pixelated. And like, you sure you want this done? Okay, fine. We'll get it done for you. But I don't know what quality you printed this off on, man. Like, we'll get it signed how you wanted. But like, we're not going to be at fault here if you want it signed in a silver Sharpie and your silver Sharpie comes out junk because you printed it off on the wrong type of material. So that's why we hate those unlicensed images. I hate seeing them. I don't like them because we can't guarantee the quality for you. So I understand a lot of you guys want particular images that aren't available out there. I get it, but that's why all that we offer at all of our signings are licensed images, because we know that the quality is going to be top notch for you and you're going to get the best autograph possible. Okay, so there is a kind of an inherent risk if you are going to be sending in unlicensed products on your end that it may not turn out the way that you think it's going to be, because you don't know and we don't know what the exact materials are going to be. So that's why we always encourage people to send in licensed items. I know it sucks because there isn't a whole bunch of images out there. For example, I would love to offer, Ricky Henderson holding the stolen base above his head. But in order to get that image, I've got to buy a whole bunch of them, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather just have images ready to go. So if people want a certain size, they can order it right off our site, and we can get that image for them and get you exactly what you wanted. But going out and buying 100 of Ricky Henderson photos just for the off chance that someone buys it, it just doesn't make any sense, right? So, but that's really kind of the big negative is the quality, especially on those jerseys. Oh my gosh, I know everybody wants a sewn-on jersey, and they don't really make them anymore except for as far as football goes, the Nike Elites, which are $350, which I would never, ever buy that unless, you're getting Tom Brady's autograph or some super expensive one. So I know it sucks that they don't really make the quote-unquote stitched jerseys anymore. They're trying to cut back on costs and increase their profit margin, so I totally get it. But that's just kind of the risk you run into if you're going to be doing the unlicensed stuff here. So, and also kind of like I mentioned before about Paul Skeens, if you send in an unlicensed item to a signing where Major League Baseball is the authenticator, you're not going to get Major League Baseball authentication on your item, which some of you may or may not care about, but I think that's pretty cool to have a first-party authentication from the actual, league that is doing the authentication. Because as we all know, for baseball items, especially when it comes to game use items, Major League Baseball authenticated is the way to go. It is the best authentication when it comes to baseball items. So that's another negative, is you may not get your item authenticated. Now, yes, we could take your item and send it to JSA and get you a basic cert, but not a first-person witness, especially when Major League Baseball is the authenticator. Now, if Beckett's there or whatnot, Beckett doesn't really care. They'll authenticate anything that is at the signing. So, all right, hopefully this helps you guys, decide whether or not you want to do licensed or unlicensed images or and jerseys and all that kind of stuff. I'm under the impression of, and this is the approach that I take with everything that I get autographed, is I'm only going to do it once. How do I want to do it? Do I want to do it the right way and the best way so I get the best item? Or do I want to do it halfway and half-ass and get maybe an okay item, So you're going to have that jersey for hopefully your lifetime. You're only going to buy it once. Buy the real deal so you get the best quality. Get the best photo, get the best stuff out there. Again, that's just how we do it. Now, everybody's going to be different. Some people have different budgets than everyone else. Maybe you're just buying it as a gift for someone else. You really don't care about the quality. That's fine too. I'm just here to present the information to you, and then you decide how you want to proceed. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit the website, powersportsmemorabilia.com. Also give us a follow on Instagram @PowersAutographs. I will see you on the next episode.